Still joining us tonight, we have Finance Secretary Ben Diokno. Good evening, Secretary. All right.
Good evening.
With various concerns on the table, we have inflation, we have debt. How does the government plan to fund the ambitious spending program of President Bongbong Marcos?
Well, there's a combination. Number one, we expect the economy to grow at a much faster rate, and therefore a stronger economy would yield higher tax revenues. So that's number one. Number two, we intend to improve tax administration, especially through digitalization in both the Bureau of Customs and the Bureau of Internal Revenue. And the third, we plan to right-size the government because of digitalization. We probably don't need a lot of manpower, so that's one, and therefore government operations would be more efficient. So a combination of those two, or rather three, will help us reduce our number one, the deficit to GDP ratio. Number two, the debt to GDP ratio, and of course, it will help us improve or rather increase the per capita income of Filipinos, and therefore we will achieve our vision of having the Philippines to convert to a upper middle income economy. And of course, they find the ultimate, which is to reduce the poverty level to a single digit, 9% by the end of President Marcos Jr.'s term.
Mr. Diokno, we certainly hear the direction for digitalization, and hopefully that makes things much more effective, much more efficient. But what are the non-technology gaps that have to be filled to fill the gaps, to improve the collection on the tax front?
Well, I understand the Bureau of Customs is near its will be able to complete its computerization, but the Bureau of Internal Revenue is also much more advanced. I think you can now pay your income tax using through digital means, and so as long as both the BIR and the Bureau of Customs finish their computerization program, that will be a big boost to revenue collection. I remember the desire to computerize the Bureau of Customs started way back during the Cory administration's term. So right now, the Bureau of Customs has already streamlined and digitalized 92% of its customs processes. And same thing with the Bureau of Internal Revenue.
Mr. Marcos, of course, President Marcos in his State of the Nation address also, of course, really emphasized the role of private sector here in funding big-ticket items. Are there any innovations or maybe even new directions in our PPP programs?
That's right. We are planning to in fact, amend some of the provisions in the implementing rules and regulations on the public-private partnership to really attract the private sector to participate in our Build program. As you know, when the Duterte administration started its operations, we don't have a lot of ready to implement projects. Now we are turning over. The Duterte administration has turned over to the Marcos administration a lot of ready to implement projects, shovel-ready projects, which are not only huge or big ticket items, but also very important to link lagging regions to leading regions. And if you combine that list of public-private partnership projects with the revised environment, in fact, the most recent change is in the environment is the Public Service Act. You know, that's a 90-year project. Now, foreign investors can participate in key areas, telecommunication, toll roads, shipping, airports, and they can own them 100%. I think with that combination, with the PPP projects and that new environment, I think we will be attracting a lot of foreign direct investors into the country.
Secretary, with the taxes on digital services, there are people who are concerned that these will not be progressive taxes, specifically when it comes to e-commerce. It might hit the MSMEs. Are there specific sectors that you're targeting, like, for example, streaming services, influencers, excluding some of those where the poor or underprivileged may be hit, or is it encompassing all digital transactions?
Well, the main desire there are two objectives for taxing online services. Number one is it could increase a lot of revenues. So it's the first objective is revenue generation. The second objective is fairness, right? If you buy from a regular store, you get taxed 12% VAT, but if you buy online, you don't get tax on your purchases. To me, that's unfair, right? I think whether you buy online or you buy from the regular store, you should pay the same tax. And in fact, there is a bias towards maybe those who can afford to buy online, they get to escape the taxation. So that's the second objective, fairness. And the first objective is to generate a lot of revenues.
How do you plan to implement digital taxes? Because there are millions of transactions happening. How will you be monitoring if people are paying?
No, I think you just put it as some additional charge, 12% VAT on online purchases. You just make it as a rule.